Hello everybody and welcome to Cabaret Secrets. My name's Gary Williams and today's guest has been a critic for the Stage newspaper for almost 20 years. He writes for Musical Theatre Review. He was a judge for Channel 4's Faking It, and I think he's going to be a judge at this year's London Cabaret Awards. Paul Vale, welcome to Cabaret Secrets.
Hello.
Tell me, for those of us who are performing and desperately want to get reviews for our show and get some kind of recognition, how do we do it?
Well, certainly from speaking from the stage's point of view, they will only review shows that are running for 3 weeks after press night, or for something which is running as part of a season. So if you are performing for 2 nights as part of a cabaret season that lasts for longer than 3 weeks, they will review you. Or if your show features Liza Minnelli, then they will review you. Obviously, you have to judge these things, bearing in mind they are the biggest reviewer of shows in the UK, not just London, so I think they are the only one now covering such a wide variety of different shows, obviously ballet, theatre, cabaret, the lot. From the point of view of getting me to review, invite me.
It's as simple as that.
Simple as that.
It's a good starting point, isn't it?
I won't always be able to come, but I remember recently a young man asked me so politely to come and see his play. It was such a sweet email. He obviously got my address from somewhere. And I looked, I thought, well, I've got an evening free, and I went to see the show, and it was absolutely brilliant. I was so shocked, and I'd never been to see this at all. I just thought, well, I'll go along, I can. So I will. So I can't always make it, and critics are not always able to make it. We've also got to earn a living. But ask.
But you must get asked all the time. I suppose we've also got to be patient, haven't we, and keep asking.
Yes, please don't be offended if we say no. It's purely because we can't fit it in.
Yeah. And would you be honest with somebody if it just wasn't your bag, if you just didn't fancy it? Would you reply saying it's so, or would you sort of be a polite sort of fobbing off?
Oh no, I'll go see it.
Oh, you'll see it. You'll see everything.
If it's not my bag, I'll happily go along and think, okay, well, prove me wrong. Very often, I mean, it's certainly where cabaret is concerned, I rarely look at my press release. I go along and think, okay, right, I'll go and see this, completely blank, see what it gives me.
And cabaret is a huge gamut of different styles, isn't it? I mean, is there a particular type that you particularly enjoy, or not?
I do like burlesque. I find it fun. I like the glamour of it. I'm very much a design person, so it's an important thing to me. I wouldn't say there's anything I dislike. I went to see a group earlier on in the year at the Soho downstairs. I forget the name of the group that were performing. I just simply didn't understand it. They were obviously very, very popular, but I was sat there and I just didn't really understand it. I'm sure they were good and then what they were doing was well done, but I didn't really understand where it was coming from.
So what do you do in that case? And if you can see that people around you are loving it but you're not, how do you write your review?
You have to break it down to why do you think people are like it, or why I think people are like it. I mean, in this instance, it was, I wish I could remember the name of the group. All I remember is they had bags on their heads. Paper bags, and I couldn't quite understand why.
You should have seen them without the bags.
Well, all I could think of throughout was I thought, gosh, they could be performing all over the UK in different venues and pretending to be the same group. You don't know. A bit like the Blue Man Group, they could be anywhere. They're not necessarily the 3 Blue Men originally that you saw. Anyway, this, from the point of view of reviewing it, you then look at what they are doing, how the audience reacts to what they were doing, and I have to work out why they're reacting in that way. What are they doing? I mean, most of their numbers were very avant-garde, punky style numbers, very in your face, and you think, well, actually, I can see. But also, they were pastiches. So you think, if I could recognise the joke behind this, which I could. I think actually, yeah, this is why it's popular. Not necessarily not appealing to me particularly, but I can see why it's popular.
But don't people read your reviews because they share the same opinion as you? They well, if Paul likes it, that's the kind of thing I'm going to like as well. So doesn't your opinion count for more than that? You seem to be saying that you kind of go on trying to put your opinion on the back burner a little bit if everybody else seems to be enjoying it, or otherwise.
There is I think if I'm enjoying something, I think there are ways of writing over the the years I've worked out ways of people will be able to read through the fact that I don't like something particularly. Even I can not like something; it can be done brilliantly.
But people sometimes write reviews which can be quite cruel, but they're quite entertaining to read. Are you ever tempted to write such reviews yourself?
I have done. Something's got to be really, really bad or really, really have annoyed me. I don't like thinking at any point that the audience is being cheated in some way. If I feel that we're being fobbed off with something, bearing in mind I never pay for a ticket, so I think my immediate thought is, how much would this have cost me if I'd been to see this, and could I afford that? And I think to myself, no, I think, no, I'm going to say something here because this is wrong. This is cheap, this is nasty, this is poorly rehearsed, badly done.
Yeah. Do you see common mistakes? I mean, if you were sitting down with a bunch of cabaret artists who you have reviewed, and it was a kind of environment where you could say, look, here's a few things I wish you'd all sort of bear in mind a little bit more, or things that you see and think, they're doing that again, or.
Common mistakes? Not really, no. I think sometimes I am faced with something, particularly if I'm going into a show which is on its third performance, and this is press night, so they've only had 2 warm-up performances for it. Something lacks rehearsal, and you think, oh, that shouldn't be going wrong on press night, or this shouldn't be working on press night. The other big one, which I've noticed more and more lately, press nights which are not well attended. Give away every ticket possible. You do not want to present a press night with nobody in the audience, except the reviewer. Yeah. And that's happened a few times, not just me, but I have been to press performances where you look around and you think, well, why is no one here?
But why should that matter to the review that you're writing of the show?
It doesn't matter for the review I'm writing for the show, but I think it affects the way a performance is had, especially whereas in cabaret, it's very much an audience reaction.
Yeah.
And I've got to sit there being the audience, and I think that's not really my job. I don't want to be like that person. I'd rather take a step back and look at what people are doing. And of course, you can't do that if there are 9 people in the audience. If you've got a PR person, never allow him to say, have a drink before you go in. Because that just makes me think, why do you have to be drunk to appreciate this?
Do you think there's any point in having PR people these days?
There can be a huge amount of point. It's good. I mean, I've noticed, apart from anything else, the PR people that I know are people that I've been working with for the last 20 years.
So they can pick up the phone.
They will say, Paul, you need to come see this.
Yeah.
And I'm more likely, if you like, to listen to them if they're saying, Paul, come and see this, we need you here.
Because presumably they've only taken on that particular show, that particular client, if they believe in it themselves, and if you're thinking, well, if their opinion's good enough, then...
They believe in it, they've also been paid, they're being paid for it.
So, I mean, you have to be discerning, but still, you've got a personal relationship with them, they call up.
Exactly, they know my email address, they know my phone number, so it's good. It's really up to you, but as I say, I take off-spec invitations wherever, if I'm free, if it's not a million miles away, if I haven't, got to make too much of an effort to get that, I will try.
And if we do manage to persuade you to come to a show and you write a review, where might that review be published?
Well, first of all, one of the things I found I really enjoy doing anyway, and I know because it's easy, especially if I'm not being paid for a review, bearing in mind that's probably what will happen, because we don't choose which shows we get to review necessarily. Twitter. Twitter, I mean, I come out and I usually try and tweet about 3 times about a show I've seen.
So it'll be quite short. It'll be 3 times 160 characters or whatever it is, 140 characters.
Retweetable.
Yeah. So you would do that more than write a full review. Do you have your own blog, your own website?
Yeah, I do have my own blog. I try to keep it up to date as much as possible. It just becomes difficult because I'm writing so much. Doing a blog as well really cuts into your time. Very often I'll write about something when I've been particularly moved by something, either good or bad, or the state of affairs. I mean, the subject that we're talking about today at the Cabaret Convention is something I really ought to be blogging about as well, and I'll probably blog about what we talk about today.
Yeah. So how do we get hold of you? I mean, is it best perhaps through Twitter, or we just find you on Facebook? Do you remember your Facebook tag?
Paul Vale 126.
Paul Vale 126. You're going to be inundated by hopefuls now. Thanks so much for talking to us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.